This is in that series I'm talking about. Your grandfather likely brutally and repeatedly raped your grandmother, which is the reason why your grandmother got 17, 18 kids. They didn't have nothing better to do. Yeah, how about chop cotton, try to scourge for food, try to keep from getting lynched? They had a whole lot more to do than we do today. You act like they were just sitting around, just having sex. No, those women were being forced into it. Look at the story in this series that I'm talking about that my mother shared with me. I had a conversation with her. She was a teen mom, and she talks about how at night the men would all be out, or they would be at work or wherever they were at, and all of the young women would all start sitting around getting really quiet because they knew that the men was going to come in there one by one and yank them up and go and brutally rape them. Grandmother that had the 17, 18 kids. Have y'all noticed that usually the youngest one be sick, have some sort of ailment, they're blind, they're crippled, something is wrong with them, right? Body's worn out. They have nothing left to give. And so that last baby, before their body just shuts down and will not allow them to have any more babies because of the STDs that their husbands brought back to them, the men being nasty out in the field all day long and coming and then raping them. And think about a woman's body. We need to keep ourselves clean. And you imagine their filthy hands on you, right? Not bathing, not cleaning up, and not respecting your body. So you're there cleaning, trying to keep the house clean and bathe, and your baby's clean and trying to keep your womb clean that they keep constantly putting the baby in. And he come in from the field or come in from sleeping with a prostitute and throw you down and assault you. And then now you've got some STD or some other type of ailment or infection, I'll say, in your body because of them being filthy. And the reason that I think that this is so sad, and I think that we really need to think about this, because I'm trying to just kind of change our way of thinking about a young lady that is, well, she get with an old man to take care of her. Maybe she's developmentally delayed. And people think that that's just something cool, that she got that old man gonna take care of her. Be a little, it usually was like this in my era. Be some really slow, real light skinned, pretty, young black woman. And she would be with some old, dirty, nasty man or get over here, come over here and bring this and do that, talking all nasty. And she got 4 or 5 of his little ugly babies on her arm, right? And she walking in behind him. You used to see that all the time. And people act like that's something to be about. That old man gonna take care of her. Think about what happens to a young woman's body that's with an old man that doesn't respect her, or with any man. And just think about the idea that men just felt that they had the right to just victimize you. Can you imagine being married to your husband? You got the house all clean and, trying to take care of all the babies that he's put inside of you. And then he just come in and just chunk you down and just abuses you. What do you think that does to a young woman? Her spirit and her soul. But I want you to think physically. Like, what does that do physically to her body? Think about it. I mean, we don't think about that aspect of it. Have you ever been with a man and he was overzealous, or y'all was overzealous, and how you felt the next day? Can you imagine that happening to your body day in and day out? Like, you could tell your boyfriend or your guy now, no, I need a break. But you couldn't tell him you needed a break. You come home from a hospital with a brand new baby and he throws you down and victimizes your body. And I'm going to start sharing some of the stories because other people, now that I talked to my mother about it, some young ladies have said they've asked their grandmothers and their great-grandmothers and asked their mothers about the experience of their grandmothers and great-grandmothers and great-great-grandmothers. And there's one story that a young sister told that she didn't want me to share her identity, but share the story that her great-grandmother actually died from rape. She had twins, some little twins, came home from the hospital. She had to go to the hospital. They had midwives back then, but she got so sick she had to go to the hospital because she was having twins and something happened with one of the twins. So she went and stayed at the hospital for like a month or so and came back with the little newborn preemie twins. And he took her, snatched her in the bedroom and took her in there and sexually assaulted her. And she ended up bleeding out and dying. Y'all. So when we sitting around acting like that, they don't make grandmothers like they used to. Yeah, because now you can't just go around SAing black women. And if they want you to stop, there's ways they can get you to stop. There are ways that women can get away from you if they have the courage, the strength, and the desire to get away from you. Like, no, people, well, they didn't have nothing. Grandma and grandpa, they got 27 kids. And the grandmother's sitting there looking like she's shell shocked. And the granddad walking around, she's walking around serving him and feeding him. And all he's done her whole entire life is SA'd her and abused her. There were plenty of things for people to do back in the old days. How about chop cotton, scourge for food, try to keep from getting lynched? It wasn't like they were just sitting on some land, just sitting out there just eating watermelon and having sex. No, they were raping those young women. That's what they were doing. They were victimizing young women and using babies, their wombs, as weapons against them. And they were actually dying from being massed and brutally raped. Went straight from the plantation to the black man's home as their wives. And that continued. The mass rape continued. So when I see people like the Jacksons and the DeBarges, and I see people with these large families, back in the old days, I don't admire that. And even nowadays when I see people with a whole bunch of kids, well, we just like that couple that's got all those kids. I ain't gonna call out their name, but come to find out that the husband was cheating and she leaving, and don't you know that he was weaponizing her womb? With as hard as it is to have babies, and the fact that black women are almost 50%, have a 50% higher chance of dying during childbirth. There's just no black women in the world that I think that would just be dumb enough just to be just having babies unless they feel pressured to do that. Or unless they are being raped and we don't see what's happening in the bedrooms of these content creators with all these kids. We just see them walking around smiling, just like we used to walk around and see our grandmothers and great grandmothers cleaning and washing and getting the clothes together of the very men that was assaulting and raping them. So in this series where I say that your grandfather likely raped your grandmother, he almost definitely, if she got a bunch of kids, most definitely did. And that is nothing to brag about.